Todd,
What are you wearing?
I decided to go rogue.
What is on your sweater?
It says Happy Hanukkah.
Because it's a llama.
Yeah. And my wife's from Peru. I felt it was family's from Peru. I felt it was like the perfect attire for night.
I like when we match, but I'm okay with it. Everyone, welcome
This
to
is our new. This is gonna be our new attire. I'm gonna get you one, maybe for Hanukkah. We'll see.
Everyone, welcome to Hoppy Hanukkah, the craft beer experience presented by Brewvanda.com. My name is Todd Summers.
And I am Chad Brodsky, and we will be your Jewish drinking buddies, and including tonight, the next 5 nights, but we're halfway through Hanukkah, night 4.
Can't believe it, flying by. Since it's night 4, let's open our night 4 beers. The most, thus far, in my opinion, the coolest can art.
Oh, I think my can art's actually better for
Terrible lighting. What is that? Oh my, is that your label, Chad?
Yeah, it's my daddy's beer. I decided to put it onto this 16-ounce can. So as we grab our beer over the next 30 minutes, we'll be enjoying a chocolate gift. That's it. We're not doing anything else. A lovely little triple dry hopped IPA from our friends at Falling Knife Brewing. This is their 3rd anniversary beer out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, the northeast part of actually Minneapolis. And we'll be also having conversations with Avi Shemtov, the chef and owner of the Shemtov Group, which owns multiple restaurants and in the Boston area and a beer truck in the greater Boston area. So very excited to be talking to Avi tonight. But before we do, Todd, you have some housekeeping, of course, right?
First of all, if you have any early morning meetings, you're going to want to cancel those. This is a 9.99% beer. Chad, I'm out until noon tomorrow. So tonight and every night, we encourage you to drink the beer with us. Falling Knife's 365 Days of Incidents is the beer you want tonight. And so again, remember the chat is for chat. Make sure you switch that mode to everyone so that everyone can see it. Q&A is for questions. Anything you have for Avi or us, we'll get those answered. We have Emily As always, here to help moderate those and answer your questions. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we won't be able to see your chat or your questions. So hop on over to Zoom so that we can get those taken care of. So yeah, if you have anything to say about Chad's sweater tonight, you're going to want to be in Zoom for that. So Chad, besides the sweater, have you gotten any good presents from your mother-in-law thus far this year?
You guys, I think there were some microphone issues. The first night that we had. So I got a new microphone and I'm ready to talk to everyone in this microphone. Do I sound better?
I hate this. You look better. That's what I'll say.
I look better because of the sweater and the haircut. No, I did get a pretty good present from my mother-in-law. She did not bribe me, but I've got men's 6-pack of craft beer socks. So
your feet will never go thirsty, I guess.
I guess so. And it's very fitting because it goes with my other past. We've been doing this for 3 years. I get a lot of beer. I got a beer lover puzzle. This was the first year we did this. And then as anyone that was here last year, we won't do this. I'll save everyone. But the dad beer jokes, if things get really awkward throughout the rest of Hanukkah, I might break out some of these bad boys. I'm just saying. Everyone
pulling the curtain back a little bit. We had our
me.
company holiday party this afternoon, and the last 5 minutes was Chad laughing to himself at those cards, not kidding. So his threat is real.
Thanks, Alexandra. He's watching.
All right. Chad, we have a triple dry hopped, triple IPA. I don't want anyone to give me any beer this year unless it has more acronyms than it has letters. This is tremendous. Cheers, Chad.
Cheers.
Abigail, don't tempt him, please.
Abigail, they're so good. I promise you that I might break them out. We'll see how this 9.9. This 9.
Mango?
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of juice. This is like just straight up juice.
Minneapolis might be on a short list of places for me to visit.
And what's the ABV on this that you said? 9.9?
9.99. It says it on the can.
Yeah. Triple IPAs. I mean, this is a dangerous beer because this does not taste like a 9.9 beer.
Okay, so
why do you think that is, Todd?
Well, we're going to talk about dry hopping tonight, which in our country, in New England, dry hopping, they'll dry hop anything. Like you got a beer that they will dry hop it. So anytime we're talking about dry hopping, we're talking about hop additions late in the brewing process, fermentation and beyond. The reason being is that you're going to get all of the aroma from the hops, all of that beautiful citrus, and none of the bite. So if you think about tea, is a really good way to think about it. If anyone's ever made a cup of tea, put the bag in, left it there, ran an errand, forgot about it, came back, that's going to be the most bitter cup of tea. If you add hops early in the brewing process in the boil, you're going to get a lot of the bittering parts of the hops at the end. When we're talking about dry hopping, pure aroma, how you make these juice bombs, as I like to call them.
Yeah, and this there is actually using something called cryo hops. Are you familiar with cryo hops?
Cryo hops, it's like when you go to those cold chambers so that your muscles recover faster.
Yeah, it's going to a cold chamber, but instead of them not just throwing cold at you, they throw beer. No, that's not
that's
what it'd be a terrible experience. Probably cause hypothermia. No, cryo hops they use this process of this cryogenic hop process technology that separates the whole cones of these hops into.
Daniel, that was a good one.
I appreciate Daniel's comment. It distracted me. So what it does is it separates those the cones of those hops into lupulin. Lupulin is the stuff that gives those hops those oils and bract. And so the cryo hop pellets are concentrated this lupulin whole leaf hop, and then it contains, that's where those resins and all those aromatic oils are living. And it really allows the brewer to drill into this process of introducing intense aromas. So when you smell this, I'd like to hear what the chat thinks on
What do you get on the nose?
on that. If you go back to our first night of the aromatics, that first or second step. No, not that. But
I can't see my fingers. I was going there.
This is not a filtered beer. Definitely not. What's the chat think in regards to what kind of aromatics are you getting with this hop? These beers.
So good. Lupulin Brewing, yeah, they're talking hops there, Scott. This is as good as it gets. And the thing with triple IPAs, especially when you start to orange juice, yeah. I mean, I once got in huge trouble our first year of hosting this stream, Howard, because when I was describing my favorite kinds of beers, I said those that resemble orange juice, and so this checks this box. So this is a really solid one for me. This is what I would go to. And I was going to say, zero astringency. Do you get any of the heat at the end? If you were guessing the ABV on this, you wouldn't come close to just under. Literally,
that's the dangerous things about like these super high gravity IPAs that are juice bombs. Is it masks the alcohol level so well, you don't get any of that hotness because your palate's so overwhelmed with the juiciness of that beer. So
I'm gonna have to call an Uber to my bedroom.
Yeah, this is a one beer night. If I'm going out and having a beer, like I'm probably having one of these a month.
But yeah, this is super impressive from Falling Knife. Really, really love this.
Falling Knife makes incredible beer. If you're in the Minneapolis area, highly, highly recommend checking it. We learned about Falling Knife when we featured the Twin Cities during the Brews Less Traveled Beer Club, and we're like, we need to get this in the Hanukkah box.
This is killer edition. I'm a huge
So
fan.
is it? Think it's Todd. Is it time? What do you think?
Let's bring our guest on. Chad, I think you have quite the introduction here.
So we could give you guys our full introduction of Avi, but we're going to read an actual introduction from our friend and recurring Hoppy Hanukkah guest, Matthew Steinberg. And he was the owner of Exhibit A Brewing, and we may see him again. Who knows? But this is his introduction that Matthew wrote. So, the most talented chef I know personally, but more importantly, I like him. I really dig talking with him. He's a gentleman, a rapper, on occasion outspoken. Recently, I learned a great letter writer. Read his Kanye West and Dave Chappelle letter. Of course, an amazing family man, a Sephardic influenced food mad freaking genius, and created and bakes daily. The second best pita I've ever had. Sorry, Avi. The best was in Old City, but I think it's because I was so blown away by everything on that trip. And my God, your pita is ridiculous. That was so. Avi, welcome to the Hoppy Hanukkah.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt Steinberg, for that introduction. I appreciate it a lot.
So let's start with the Chad 5, Chad.
Yeah, so we got the Chad 5, which is actually only 4. No one's even mentioned it, but we'll say it there. So we're gonna start with the Chad 5, which is super easy, rapid fire questions. What's your name?
My name is Avi Shemtov. That was easy.
Where are you from?
I grew up in Sharon, Massachusetts, where I live now.
Oh, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Where I live now. My life has come full circle.
What's your job title?
I have a lot of job titles and I have a lot of jobs. I'm a dad. I'm the chair of a school committee. I'm the CEO of the Shemtov Group. I like to go by executive chef.
That was an order from highest to lowest paying.
100%, you nailed it.
And then if you could drink with a beer with one Jew in history, dead or alive, who would it be?
Jay-Z's not Jewish, right? Dang.
Not yet.
Not yet. If Jay-Z is willing to convert, it's going to be Jay-Z. One Jew in history, I guess it would be Ariel Sharon. I think that's who I'm going with.
Why?
I mean, so Ariel Sharon, I think was a fascinating guy. I think he was super polarizing, but I think that he had this unique way of viewing Israel's sort of right to existence and its defense. And then also he later in his life was really close with some members of my family, and I never had the opportunity to meet him. He was somebody who, again, I just want to be clear. Like, I don't know that I idolize him. I don't know that I agree with everything Ariel Sharon did.
We just said a beer.
Yeah, I just found him fascinating, and I would love
Could be 12 minutes,
Could be a shot. I mean, you could just how fast
you do a milk pour a notch.
Right. Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of Jews worth having a beer with. I'm gonna pick Ariel Sharon.
Awesome. Great. You did really well on those questions. Good job.
Thank you.
All right. We're starting off strong. Todd?
I'm not going to ask about how you got your start as dad or school board member, but the Shemtov group. Tell us about how you got started in the restaurant industry. How did the group get going?
Sure. Yeah. So my dad came over from Israel in '72. And he washed dishes and whatnot in restaurants for like a little bit more than a decade. And then he started opening restaurants. So like my whole life, I grew up sort of on the roller coaster of a small business family. My dad like filled me with all these ideas like growing up. I mean, first of all, he taught me how to cook starting when I was 4. And then he filled me with all these ideas about working for yourself and why it was important to sort of control your own destiny, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up going into sales, and I really loved it. And then like he sort of wrote me into like partnering with him on a pizza shop. And then he had a heart attack and he needed a triple bypass and he wasn't able to run it. So he was going to sell it for like pennies on the dollar. So I just took it over and I just put up a banner that said coming soon, the chubby chickpea. And it was like a day and a half before we opened that I realized I'd never fried a falafel ball in my entire life. So I had to figure it out on the fly. And it's, I think that was 13 years ago this month, basically. Someone said my dad sounds like a great guy. I really appreciate you saying that. Actually, next month will be a year since my dad passed. But yeah, so I've just been on this like 13-year journey, sort of learning it on the fly and getting better every day. And I've been fortunate to build this team and started with the chubby chickpea. And then we opened a food truck 2 years after our brick and mortar. And we were the 14th truck in Boston when like food trucks were getting big. And all of a sudden, like, I think we were right on that Venn diagram of like, we were great at what we did and things were so popping that like, if you showed up and the sun shined, everybody knew who you were. And we got a couple write-ups and we got some really good reviews. And before you knew it, like the chickpea was a thing and it was on the map. And that gave me the license to like, not literally that I had to figure out on my own, but that gave me sort of the opportunity to open Tapped a couple of years later. And then, I think it was sort of after that, if you look at like the history of the Shemtov group, it's like 5, 6, 7 years of just the chickpea. Then all of a sudden comes Tapped. And then like, all of a sudden I started acquiring all this talent around me and we just started opening stuff. So like Simca came third, but then like, boom, Simca, then a la Ash, then Hummus with Hummus. We actually had a food truck that was supposed to launch the year that the pandemic hit called Arabe that will probably come out next spring. So like, we're just sort of on a quest to open all my little pet projects.
And it's easy to do when you have a good team, right? Because you have people that you can trust so that, you don't have to be frying the falafel and learning how to do it the day before, right?
That's exactly it. It's easier to do when you have a good team and impossible to do if you don't. So I think that's the formula.
That's a lesson, right? People should write that down.
So for the audience, can you just go through what each one of those restaurants is and then?
Yep. So the Chubby Chickpea, which is definitely like the biggest and longest running venture of mine, is a mobile food truck company. So we have 3 food trucks. We do about 80%, honestly, of our business in catering. So we do a massive amount of catering, corporate catering, weddings, bar mitzvahs. That's off the truck. That's in addition to the truck. Then we have Tapped, which is mobile beer trucks that does a ton of private events, a lot of corporate stuff, believe it or not, also weddings, not so many bar mitzvahs. But we do also beer gardens around the state. So that we've got 3 of those trucks. Then I have Simcha, which is in Sharon. That's an upscale, I call it progressive modern Israeli cuisine. So that's more of like an upscale dining restaurant that and bar that Boston Magazine has called the best restaurant south of Boston for the 3 years that we've been open. Ala Esh is we call it Israeli inspired Southern barbecue. And then Hummus for Hummus is a concept that does bowls. So it's like really customizable. I always try to describe it to people as like at the same quality as Simca is. So it's not street food the way the chickpea is. It's like the more upscale salads, a lot of curated menu items. And then it's literally just a one price bowl. You walk in and everything you want to be put in that bowl, we'll put in the bowl for you. So it's like,
don't say that to Chad. Don't say that to Chad.
No, Chad, prove me. Come try to prove me.
I will prove you wrong.
Because so that brand. Let me tell you something about the chubby chickpea. So I built the chubby chickpea with my bare hands, with this philosophy that people don't care about price, they care about value. So like we built the chubby chickpea on this idea that every time I ever made you a sandwich, you were surprised at how heavy it was. So I tell all my staff at Hummus for Hummus, who like, just because of how my trajectory has been, like all my staff has only been around since we've been successful. So like, it was funny because when the pandemic hit, they all had to see like why, even at our height, I never turned $100 order that we had to drive into Boston for down. And they used to think I was crazy. And I would say like, that's how we built this business. Like, yeah, we do all this, but like those people are the backbone of what we do. And when the pandemic hit, they saw I laid 0 staff off during the pandemic. We just hustled. And all of a sudden they understood how important those $100, $50, $25 orders were. Well, now they're growing a brand from scratch. And it's not in easy areas to do it in. We're in Chestnut Hill and Brighton and Sharon. And I'm telling them all, I'm like, listen, every single bowl has to feel like they're robbing us. Like that's how they have to feel. And so trust me, Chad, come in and go crazy. Because I teach them like, look, if you don't put more into that bowl than they thought you were going to, you failed me, you failed them. This thing will die. People need to feel like, hey, I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And I'm going to keep coming back and stealing from them.
I mean, I was at the JCC for some event the other day, and the chubby chickpea truck was there, and I got one for my daughter who's 3.5 and one for myself. And the mess that we made, because there was just so much food inside these sandwiches, it was just unheard of. I feel bad actually, because I'm sure I feel good because I'm sure a lot of different birds were able to enjoy the meal after, but we left a little bit of a mess. Sorry, JCC in Boston.
That's right.
So,
Jared.
Avi, I want to talk about this beer truck because I know food trucks. How did you get the idea? Where did the concept come from? And what's like, obviously craft beer is on a sort of solid trajectory, but how did you sort of see that and want to make it mobile? Like, how did that come about?
Sure. So, and this is where I'm gonna break from my normal humble self and tell you how I invented the mobile food truck the mobile beer truck in the Boston area. So we used to vend the chickpea back when food trucks were cool. We used to vend. I mean, now they're like so corporate. It's so much corporate catering and whatnot. But we used to vend at night shift, and this was when night shift was cool. So we used to like be at night shift in Everett. And night shift, the beer is still cool, but I mean, it's changed, it's grown, it's gotten so big. When they were just Everett, and trucks would just roll up, and you just rolled up and it was cowboy. I mean, it was like you're coming from your Boston vend and you're writing your menu on your whiteboard now with like, what do you have left from getting your butt kicked in downtown Boston? And like, you're just doing cool stuff. You're inventing your menu sometimes. I started learning that like, and I'm not embarrassed to admit, like I could appreciate a good beer, but I did not understand how pervasive craft beer was getting. So like I'm like at night shift and they're just, staff is just trading beer for food. And we're just drinking all these beers and getting introduced to sours and like understanding like how that the culture of craft beer worked. So then I got to meet, I did an event at, I'm blanking on the name, but it was one of these beer fests. They just recently actually, unfortunately, decided they were going to close down.
Extreme Beer Fest.
Very cool, very, very cool guys. And they invited us to this event. So the chickpeas, like indoors, making sandwiches on a Friday night, drinking beers. And I met Adam Romanow from Castle Island and Matt Steinberg from Exhibit A on the same night. And like, we went out for beers afterwards and like, they were kind of talking to me. And it just like, it started to dawn on me that I knew. So we had a really strong relationship with Trillium at the time.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. So it's okay. You're not, no, I'm just kidding. But we met we sort of, when they were in Canton and they couldn't get anybody to do food, we would come out and do food because we were based out of Canton. And, these are early days. So then like when Treehouse first opened Charlton, like we did their soft open, their grand open, their staff parties. So it just like occurred to me, I'm like, time out, like I know all these people and like I kind of have access to cool stuff. I also pull liquor licenses all year for private events and weddings and bar mitzvahs and stuff. And I understand mobile. So I was like, why? Like, it feels like I'm the guy. So I called like my insurance agent who I'm close with, and he was like, it can't be done. Like and he was explaining to me all the reasons why it can't be done. So I went sort of back to the drawing board and I found like how it can be done, like why it can be done. And at the time, my publicist was sort of the unofficial mayor of Quincy. And so he had a lot of friends there and he could introduce me to some people. So I used sort of like Quincy and their Porch Fest, which is like, in my opinion, the best Porch Fest in the area. We went to their Porch Fest and we used that as like the door to get in. We met in front of their select board and we had to convince these folks why our truck was a piece of equipment. Like, ignore the fact that it's mobile. It's not going to be mobile when it is pouring. It's a piece of equipment. We're just pulling a license. So they gave it to us and, we paid police detail. We did everything. We did such a good job. I've done events in Quincy since then where they don't even make me pull police detail. They do like open carry of beers at the entire pageant field. Like they trust us. And
in Quincy?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So from there, like I kind of, I figured it out. So much so, and this is just kind of how I am. And Steinberg, I think, is probably alluding to this. He talks about it. It's like, I'm just not. So my dad always, I have 2 cookbooks that are like national, and they have like every recipe of like, you can, if you eat something in one of my restaurants and you love it, you could go find out how to cook it. The thing, and my dad was so against that. Like, don't give him the recipes, don't give him the recipes. And I just don't have time for that. I already did this. I'm on to the next thing. I'm okay. Like, if you want to execute what I'm executing and you want to take on that hard work, feel free. Yeah. So like the folks at Trillium, for example, like they came to me to try to understand the mobile licensing, and I was free with that information. I explained it to anybody who would listen. Like I told anybody, and now you see like all these mobile, like a lot of breweries are doing it. And I'll be honest with you, I love that. Like, I'm good with that because at the end of the day, like I promise you this, Tapped has done more every year. It's not, the pie is just getting bigger and bigger. There's enough people out there drinking beer on a Saturday and booking people to do it that like we can all eat, sort of, metaphorically speaking. So like I love it. But that is exactly how Tapped came to be. And we started doing beer gardens. That was my partner in the Braintree Beer Garden, Kay Lorenz, who owns, it used to be Craft Beer Cellar Braintree. Now it's Kay's Cans and Bottles. If you don't know Kay, like you need to know Kay. She's a dynamic personality, and I got introduced to her by Adam at Castle Island. And so like, she's just awesome. And she had this idea for a beer garden in Braintree. So we sort of prototyped doing a beer garden, like a customer forward beer garden in Braintree. I think that was 5 or 6 years ago. That's a killer beer garden. So we went from there. We do one in Sharon. We've done Cambridge for an entire season. Tapped worked with what is the cider out of East? Yeah, down east.
Down east.
Yeah, so down east and Tapped worked together to do the beer garden on the Greenway one year. So Tapped is just, it's a fun company. Beer is just, it's so nice sometimes as a chef to be able to just pour beer. But also like, it's really cool to learn beer. My staff loves beer. The guy that manages Chestnut Hills Hummus is a level 1 Cicerone. And he does beer dinners at Simca and is like, yo, like let's do, and he teaches me stuff. I learn stuff from the Steinbergs of the world. So I just love it.
It sounds like beer is really important. So as a chef, you executive.
That's an Exhibit A beer.
Yeah, I'm drinking Cast Me Out.
Oh, there you go. Went from Notch. So just for everyone,
right, empty Notch.
Al Esh has a restaurant in Notch Brewing if you're in the Boston area at the Speedway. So you can get delicious beer at Notch and then eat at Al Esh.
So that opens January 12th. So after that, January 12th on, you can get barbecue.
Birthday. So after my birthday, you can do this.
Are we having your birthday party there?
Dude, your birthday is January 12th?
Yeah.
Come to opening day. Let's, and I'll put so much barbecue in a bowl just to prove both concepts.
All right, done. That sounds like a plan. My wife's on watch. She's like, yes. All right, that's my birthday. Now my birthday plans. So with being so into beer, as a chef, do you ever use beer in any of your recipes? And how, if you do, how can we use beer in recipes? What does beer do in recipes?
Yes. So, I cook with beer in like a variety of ways. I think that the most common way, obviously, is like people make batter with beer just because it gets crispier. A lot of times folks will waste like really good beer on beer batter, but I don't think that they understand that look, menu writing is real. So like, even if it's just like your party at home, it's like, it sounds really great to be like, oh, I got this really amazing 9.9% beer from Indianapolis and I made batter out of it. It's like, all right, like you lost all of the flavor out of it. It just made it crispy because beer is a little bit of alcohol, so it evaporates a little faster. Vodka works in batter too. But I like to use beer in things like when we're flavoring it. A lot of times, like you can deglaze with like really, especially nowadays where like people are so creative on the brewery level to make like delicious beer. You can make sauces out of beer. Oh, wow. I like to bake with beer. Again, a lot of times, especially dark beers, like you hold the flavor of those amazing beers in stuff. Again, like I'm not using an IPA to deglaze stuff. Like I don't think that the flavor profile of hops makes that kind of stuff. But I love using like porters.
Maltier.
Maltier beer, exactly. So a lot of times baked goods and sauces are places where I'm using beer. Again, nowadays with beer being such a wide range of flavor profiles, beer can kind of be cooked with in the way that wine has always been cooked with. Because at the end of the day, by the way, PBR, I'm not knocking it. PBR is one of my favorite beers, but PBR is probably best in like a fish batter. Whereas like there's definitely like super cool beers that you can like make sauce with, tomato sauce, even as weird as that might sound. Like there's stuff that fits in all of that. And again, it's a lot of times easier, especially if you're somebody who drinks a lot of beer, to put beer into your sauces and whatnot than to put red wine in everything or white wine in everything.
My brain's going to I don't know why, but a beer mole, just like a
100%
porter mole.
Yep.
Oh, stout mole. That sounds incredible. If you
a stout mole would be sick. And like, the thing is like stouts are they lend themselves to cooking so much because I think the body makes it so that you don't really have to reduce so much. so you can keep a lot of the flavor in it. Essentially, if you're cooking for the kids, you got to cook the alcohol out. But if you're not, even preserving some of the alcohol in it is totally fine. And there's so many things. So like, you ever made no churn ice cream? So like no churn ice cream is like a trick that I'm like.
Wait, is this where you shake it up in a bag and?
No, so no churn ice cream.
Okay.
I learned this from Chris Lynn at 7 Star Bistro. He taught me years ago that like, hey, so if you take whipped cream and you whip it to stiff peaks, and then you fold it into sweetened condensed milk very carefully, and then just put it in the freezer in 4 hours, it is the creamiest ice cream. It's amazing. And it's literally just like 2 emulsifications emulsifying. So it's a shortcut. And so because of that, you could do so much with flavors. And so like, that's a place where like a stout folded into like the whipped cream or into the condensed milk. Again, you could have boozy stout ice cream in your own fridge, in your own freezer.
That sounds incredible. So just so when I try to do this, not tonight, clearly, but maybe this weekend. So I need whipped cream. Do I have to make the whipped cream, or can I get like Cool Whip whipped cream to do this?
No, you make the
whip it.
I have to like, actually make whipped cream.
Yeah, because you need all that air in there.
Got it. All right. And then I need condensed milk.
Yep. And so the ratio is like a pint of whipped cream, which is like what you're buying anyway, and the little can of sweetened condensed milk, that's the exact size. And that will make you a batch. And once you do that, and it's so easy, and once you've done it once, you can make that into any flavor forever. And so I always tell like anybody who's a beer drinker, it's like, think about all the things you can do. Like, you know what I mean? Like almost any delicious beer can be folded in different. I mean, again, like even you could
probably stout would I need
sours.
Like how much, like a sour or a stout? How much would I have to put in to this no churn ice cream?
So first of all, fold it in the sweetened condensed milk for sure. Like mix it in the sweetened condensed milk so you don't mess up.
First, mix it with the condensed milk.
Right, because if I worry that if you put it in with the whipped cream might not whip right.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in with the condensed milk, and then essentially like. I think you'd probably have to, the only way it could be too much of it is like, it's going to freeze differently than, so like, you don't want to be too liquidy or it's going to be like part shaved ice. But I would think you could probably like into what I just described, I bet you can put like a third of a can of stout. And I'll bet you that's going to taste like whatever that stout is. And now you've got, Sunday paper ice cream.
I may have for one of these. Because I did order another box, so I might have to use.
You don't have to order them; you own them. I drank the Sunday paper. Actually, I drank the Sunday paper like a month ago, and Sunday it was
delicious. We had that. So, was that last year? We had
last year.
Sunday paper I in last year's
extra.
So good. One of you guys said you don't live that far from Sharon. So in the summer, or pretty much spring to fall, I have a problem in my life, a weird problem, which is like I own these beer trucks that do these private events. And like the law says that like the beer can't be left with the guests because it's an on-premise license. So I have all these kegs and like distributors don't want to take the kegs back with beer in them, So I have to like park these trucks in my backyard and just like post on Facebook that I need people to come drink my beer. And so like Sunday paper is a common beer for me on a Sunday to be like drinking in the hot sun. And it sounds like, what are you doing? But it's actually,
I don't know if that's the beer I want.
You know what? It's a fun activity. Fun activity. The kids are playing. Bring the kids over. They'll run around. We just crush beers. It's fun.
I always say I'm not afraid of sweating. So if you're cool getting real like hot in the summer, that's perfect. Someone mentioned braising short ribs in stout, and that's like so good because the little bit of malt and that like chocolate coffee, depending on the stout, is just going to provide more of the richness. I love that. You've got Rachel and Alex are in Hopkinton, so they're going to
come
find their way in your backyard.
Come through. Listen, you got to understand something. Like what Steinberg was trying to say politely in his intro was like, Avi's crazy, but like he loves people. And he's like, you don't understand. Like I know there are people in Sharon who I only know as the people who like have come through my beer garden or my backyard, and I'm not sure which one, because like there are strangers hanging out in my backyard drinking beer with me. I love it. It's like going to a bar, except that I just have to walk back inside.
So fun. You have an on-premise license literally at your house.
Right.
At your house.
Right.
There's a question in the chat. I have to answer because it's my wife. So how involved are you at your restaurants and trucks? Are you there on locations on a daily basis, or what's kind of like your involvement with each of the different businesses?
So I definitely am the operating owner of every single one of these places. Like it definitely doesn't go a week without me physically being in the spaces. And then it's rare maybe once a week I get a day where I'm not in any of the spaces. Obviously anybody who owns businesses, I know you guys know, that's still not really a day out. Like that just means I'm in front of a computer, or I get a chance to kind of breathe. But I'm very, very involved. I'm not on, with the exception of Simca, when I want to be. I'm not on like the line. Like I have managers of the food trucks, and I live by like a rule that like once I turn over like management of a space that belongs to me, it's like I own it. I'm the guy that pays the bills, so I still manage that person, but it becomes their house. So like, of course I still have keys and I come in when I want to, but like it's hard for me to then be like serving bowls in Chestnut Hill, but I do it. In fact, I think some of them like when I do it, so I try to like work a service in every place once a week. And I try to be in the space. I like seeing people.
As the CEO of like City Brew Stores,
I enjoy it. These places.
Yeah, I'm running tours on occasion, but like you need to have that on the ground, be at the front of the line, be making the bowls, because otherwise you're not going to understand the problems that your employees are facing without doing that yourself.
I think that's exactly it. And sometimes I'm not, no disrespect to people that are into crystals and stuff like that. I'm not saying I don't know better than you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying like that's not my light. Like I don't want to give the wrong impression when I talk about energy, but I do believe that like energy and energy transfer is like a thing. And so like if you ever became like completely hands off, it becomes like kind of a soulless thing. Whereas it's like even if it's just once in a complete blue moon, you're going to give it a tour. It's like that next generation of tour guides that work for you, that you're the best, like you're the reason you built this thing on your passion. So like they need to see that, and there's just you learn something about your own process when you're in there, and then also they get an energy exchange from you. And for me, like I never take for granted like where I've gotten in 13 years. I'm not anywhere near yet where I want to end up, but I'm also like a lot further than when I started, and I know that. So for me, it's like I'll go hang out for a service in Brighton at the Speedway, and like 3 or 4 times randomly someone will walk in and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, are you Avi?" And like, I was fortunate enough to be on like Ming Tsai's show, which is national, and I think there are just like people like probably 30 years older than me who watch that show, and so they know me from that, or like we've been on Phantom, or I've been lucky enough to be in the Globe. For whatever reason, like strangers want to have a conversation, and like I said, I enjoy hanging in the backyard with strangers. So certainly, I want to talk to strangers that came in to spend money with my company. I want to know what makes them tick and why they love this. Someone said to me years and years and years ago, they were like when the chickpea was new and like maybe a year in or something, and it was sort of struggling. One of my employees said to me, I read that you shouldn't measure your success in dollars. You should measure your success in how many people would miss what you do if you stopped doing it tomorrow. And to me, it's like over the years, like think about how many people love what you guys do that have never got to experience it. So for me, like this is tonight like a very cool experience because I know what you guys do and I know who you are, and this is like a very cool experience for me to have been able to like earn the opportunity to be invited to this and do this. And for me, like anytime somebody who I've never met in person wants 5 minutes of my time, I'm like, I'm a kid in a candy store. It's like I sat around and dreamed that I would matter someday. I watched some chef across the room and like wish that I could have 5 minutes of his or her time. And the first time I met like Tiffany Faison or Joanne Chang, like I was that person like waiting for 5 minutes of their time. And then now like sometimes I'm in a room with like my name on something and so is theirs. And I think to myself, like, dude, like that's Ming Tsai that just texted me. Or like I hang out with Dave Becker, like he's one of my closest friends. That's not lost on me. And it's never lost on me that like people will come to my places sometimes for me and what I do. So if I detached like from being the chickpea or hummus or Simca or Tapped, like I would miss that connection. And I feel like I would rob myself of the opportunity to like experience that with somebody.
Okay. One, something that really connected with me is I'm a huge fan of the quote, comparison is a thief of joy, where like I really want to think of things that make me happy because that I'm doing them and I'm not trying to do them because someone else is doing them, or is someone else's beer experience better? It's like, maybe, I don't know, but like all you can do is focus on making food as good as you can, right? And we can make beer experiences as to the best of our ability, and that'll make us happy. And I really like that. Is your hoodie, is that an Angela's Cafe hoodie?
It's actually Angel's Cafe, which is in Sharon Center. Another amazing place that I go to every single morning, and I love those people. The chef that owns that
Chad's
restaurant.
favorite breakfast place is Angela's Cafe.
Okay, where's that?
It's in East Boston. So if anyone's in Boston and you have a layover for any reason, check out Angela's Cafe. I don't know.
I
don't know why we're plugging Angela's Cafe. It's just an amazing brunch spot, but it's like this authentic Mexican restaurant.
Well, I will try that out. You should try out Angel's Cafe.
I'll have to get to Angel's. Done.
Get the egg and avocado.
All right. If you go to Angela's, this is off menu. They don't make this, but it's a chorizo ham benedict with a chipotle hollandaise sauce. I made it up. They might know that just because you order it, they might look at you weird, like, do you know Chad or something? But
or like, are you like that guy? No.
are you that guy who tries to eat
Chad? You don't look
in the bowl.
Yeah, that's cool.
No, we're about getting to the end, but we want to hear what's next. Avi, this is your time. Let us know first, where can people find you, and what's next for the Chubby Chickpea and the Shemtov group?
Yeah, so the Chubby Chickpea is going through its sort of winter off season where we do vend, but like we're out and about a little less often. thechubbychickpea.com. You have to remember thechubbychickpea.com has all that information and catering and booking and all that kind of stuff. As soon as spring comes around, the chickpea will be back out in like full force, 3 trucks a day, 7 days a week. Same with Tapped. Like as soon as spring comes, Tapped's doing a ton of private events and beer gardens and all over the place. That's tappedbeertruck.com. And then Simca has actually been on hiatus since June, but reopens on January 1 with a brunch, Blues Barbecue brunch on Sundays. And then we've got like a calendar at simcarestaurant.com posted. So that's got events and pop-ups and dinners and all that kind of stuff all month. And then Hummus for Hummus is in Chestnut Hill. It's the door next to the Star Market at the Streets. We are also in Sharon at 366 South Main, 2 doors down from Simca. And the third Hummus for Hummus location, which is still open this Thursday and Friday at the Speedway with Notch, is turning into, as of January 12th, as of Chad's birthday, it will be becoming A La Esh Barbecue. And A La Esh Barbecue food truck will launch this spring as well.
Amazing.
36, Chad?
36 what?
Years old?
Oh yeah, 36. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, 36.
Perfect birthday party.
All right.
Perfect
awesome. Well, everyone, that's night 4.
Avi, thank you very, very, very much.
2022. Thank you.
Tomorrow night we have people who are going to be, you'll recognize them not because of their faces, but because of the people that they represent in your lives. They will be they'll be very different from Avi. We are going to be talking to some bubbies. So
What did you say? Wait, we're bubbies? That's who we're talking to tomorrow?
you don't know. It's a surprise.
All right.
There might be some people older than us drinking beers tomorrow night.
Well, I can't wait to hang out with you tomorrow night at 9 p.m., Todd. So everyone, happy Hanukkah, and
See you tomorrow.
see you tomorrow.
Bye, Chad.
Bye, Todd.